tell us the truth. You can come out and tell us what you think.
Right.
You think prisoners have rights, but hey, they do have rights. We're talking about those rights on the show today. We're looking at the state of Nigeria's correctional centers. This will be the third time we're doing this in the past few months because it's crucial. And a while ago, there was an electrocution at one of the prisons here in Lagos. We'll be looking at why that happened, what the government is doing about it, and you'll be interested to also know that some of the inmates have sued on this matter. Welcome to the Morning Crossfire this morning. I'm Wemimo Adewuni.
I am Sheriff Quadry. The plan this morning is to have a very robust conversation about prisoners' welfare and Nigeria's prisons as a whole. If you've been following Morning Crossfire, especially this year, 2019, you would realize that we're not taking things lying low when it comes to prisoners and prisoners' welfare in Nigeria here. We have been championing the cause of making sure that prisoners' rights are well protected. Our prisons, are not just an abandoned place. Our prisons are, made to be standard according to what is obtainable elsewhere in the world, and that is exactly why we are talking about this particular topic again. Recall that some few weeks ago some prisoners were electrocuted, and this actually brought about a very, very big investigation that got some prisons officers suspended by the Prisons Authority. Whether that is enough or not, well, the prisoners, I can tell you, are not taking this as well as a final protocol, for their agitation. They're saying that, look, we will go to court and we will be duly compensated. What could have led to this? How are the states of our prisons across the country? What rights do prisoners have? If you've been to prisons before, if you've been there, if you've stayed a couple of days or months or some time there before, we'd like to hear from your part as well as regards what you went through, particularly female prisoners, their rights, their protection. How is it that a female prisoner can be impregnated inside the prisons? Who is protecting a female prisoner and their welfare? And when they put to bed as well, what are the plans for the offsprings, the babies? It's just a whole gamut of issues as regards to prisons and prisoners' welfare in Nigeria. So this is a conversation on the Morning Crossfire this morning. It is going to be a robust one. Feel free to start conversing with us right now via our socials. Our WhatsApp line is 0809 597 5805. That is 0809 597 5805. The WhatsApp line, there you go. And of course, Twitter is at Nigeria Info FM on Twitter. On Facebook and YouTube is Nigeria Info 99.3. Let's get the conversation on the road. I'm Sheriff Quadry.
I'm Wemi Adewuni. We are ready. Now, you certainly know, as we mentioned earlier, this is a third time in the last few months that we've had this conversation about the Nigerian prisons, now called correctional centers. And we're looking at the state of the prisons and the welfare of the prisoners. Now, there were reports on the 2nd of December, just this month, that about 5 awaiting trial inmates inside the Ikoyi Medium Security Custodial Center, that's Ikoyi Prison in Lagos, were electrocuted after an electric wire snapped and fell on a cell, while 10 other inmates sustained injuries of various degrees.
Right.
However, news findings also show that casualties would have been more if not for the timely intervention of the medical workers at the center. Now, however, question is, why did that happen? When inmates die, is there an underlying situation that caused this? The Metro page of the Punch did report saying that there were about more than 100 inmates in the cell at the time of the incident that led to the electrocution of 5 inmates. With a population of 7,396 prisoners. I remember we were told the last time that the number is more than this now.
Right.
Lagos State has the highest number of prisoners. According to stats by the National Bureau of Statistics, Bayelsa is next populated and then followed by Ekiti State. And stats also show that the total prison population grew by 5.6% in 2016. The most represented age category between 26 and 50 years old. That's the highest number of people you will find in prison, and the level of inmates under 16 reduced. Good news. Let's emphasize again that Lagos State has the highest number of inmates across the country. You might say this is because Lagos is highly populated. We have joining us on the show this morning Mr. Rotimi Oladokun, who's the Superintendent of Prisons, Lagos State Command. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
And thanks for coming in again.
Thank you.
Would also be joined. He has a case in court at 9, so he'll be joining us via the phone. We'll have joining us Ahmed Adetola Kazim, who is the Executive Director, Prisoners' Rights Advocacy Initiative. Prisoners' Rights Advocacy Initiative. He'll be joining us over the phone just in a moment, and he'll be telling us more. Let's start with the last incident at the prisons. Can you tell us precisely what caused that electrocution?
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me. Well, I would like to say the service is...
Mr. Ahmed, please hold on. Please stay on the line. You're live on radio now.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
Well, the service is in a mourning period due to the tragic loss of life, irrespective of their status. It's a tragedy, and at least we're moving forward. Listen, the causes and remote or near causes are still, the investigation is still an active investigation. So I won't want to prejudge their findings of the panel. I'm sure when the findings are out, the service will issue an appropriate public statement to that regard. So all I can say for now is that it's quite unfortunate and it's really tragic. But be that as it may, I also want to take our time to salute the courage and the dedication of the officers and men stationed at Ikoyi Custodial Center because of their timely and quick response to the situation. Because if not that, some of the issue, this tragedy will have escalated beyond that. But I want to give out a big thanks to their dedication as first responders, especially our medical team. When the incident happened, they swung into action, and I think that actually helped save lives.
When things like this happen and lives are lost, I don't think it is sufficient to say that you will not be able to tell us, even if it's preliminary, the cause of what happened. I mean, we have people died, and we can't say that, you can tell us exactly what happened, even if it's preliminary. We're not saying that some people should be blamed. We're not saying that, you should speak for anybody. We're just saying that preliminary, what could have gone wrong?
That's what I said. I'm still referring to the press statement that was issued by the National Public Relations Officer of the Nigerian Correctional Service, Controller Francis Enobori. I think some of the preliminary findings, suggest that there was a power surge. So, be that as it may, I would like to anchor because of uniformity of information.
Right.
I don't want to second guess or speculate. So, I will anchor my response on what was already released by the public relations officer. As I said, it's not when death is involved, even if it's one, it's also a cause of concern.
Right.
And as I said earlier in my opening statement, the command is also in the mourning phase now. So, but
your call has been placed on hold.
Issues will be looked into, and appropriate lessons learned and appropriate actions taken.
Indeed.
Well, I hope that would suffice. But for now, the report we got was that there was electrocution and the prisons were overcrowded. I mean, we can't all argue that our prisons are overcrowded. The last time you were here, we talked about this overcrowding, and the new Act that sets up the correctional facilities also said that the prisons can turn back prisoners. We had a conversation in the newsroom this morning. If the prisons are over the capacity they were built to actually take in, why are more prisoners coming in? Are the correctional centers turning away new inmates now?
Excuse me. Yeah, by virtue of the new act, the Nigerian Correctional Service Act 2019, it empowers the custodial center through the command superintendent to actually turn away inmate. As you know, the law too is new and its implication and implementation are also new. I have it on good authority that I know that the controller of the correctional service in Lagos State Command had actively engaged with the Attorney General of Lagos State and the Chief Judge of Lagos State to set in modalities to remove and release inmates. I have it on good authority. I know that there's a committee from the judiciary set up that they are looking through some vetting process to actually release some. I'm sure the CJ's visit will be soon, where is a go delivery is one of the techniques that they actually use to release inmates. And I'm also sure, I know that the Attorney General, the Governor of Lagos State has considered the Prerogative of Mercy Committee. So those are things that are being implemented. As I said earlier when I was here, that the power given to the correctional service, both a carrot and a stick approach. So we're still engaging because, to the best of my knowledge, both of them are still new. The Attorney General and the Chief Judge of Lagos State were just new, but the controller had actually visited them to intimate them about the current realities.
Right.
So they've, at least what I said, I know that they are putting in place measures to do something.
Which that's something, like you suggested, might be to maybe free some inmates.
Yes.
But the Ikoyi Medium Security Custodial Center, for instance, was built in 1955.
Yes.
I was built to accommodate 800 inmates.
Yes.
So how many inmates? Last time you were here, I mean, with the reports we have over 7,000 at the Ikoyi prisons, but you told us we had more.
7,000, not, I'll take command, not
Command.
not the Ikoyi Custodial Center.
At the command
At command in Lagos State Command, we have 5 custodial
centers.
Okay.
So Ikoyi Custodia is just one of them.
Okay.
So how many inmates can we free to then make room for the actual number that should be in those custodial centers? Otherwise, we're still going to have overcrowding.
Yeah, I think the implementation of this new act, that's why I said put it in place that it's a carrot and stick. The issue of overcrowding didn't just start maybe last 2 years or last 3 years. It has been a progressive issue. Now we're looking at it actually de-escalating and decongesting it progressively. We have the Honorable Attorney General and the CJ have certain powers that they can implement at that stage. Once that first stage
Your call
is
has been placed on hold.
once that first stage is implemented, we move into the next stage. Sorry that I'm comparing
Right.
the administration of criminal justice to a conveyor belt. We have to deal with, we're starting from the back to the front. Those are already in custody. What are we going to do about them? Because there's a process. There's a lawful process that which must be and procedure to follow to actually decongest this prison. As I said earlier, those are some measures. Now we're also attacking the issue from the supply chain. Those are coming in from the court.
Right.
That's why I know that the Ministry of Justice in Lagos State, they have the plea bargain initiative, and I know because we've been engaging with them and interacting with them, they are trying to review some of the plea bargain protocol, while some of those that still are awaiting trial can actually find a middle ground. And because of our new act, we give certain provisions for non-custodial measures,
Okay.
community service, probation, parole, restorative justice, and also other non-custodial measures. So I also know that the judiciary, Lagos State Judiciary, also have restorative justice court, and that jurisdiction has even of recent been expanded to all courts. I know they had the pilot scheme, but they have also increased it. So the issue of the congestion is in stages. We have those that are in custody now, and we are trying to actually decongest them.
Right.
We have those that to also prevent the further inflow. So it's not a one. I said one size fits all, one solution fits all. But the power that which the correctional service have of rejecting is still potent and to be used. But we're still trying to those that are inside, because even if you put a gate and say you don't take more, you still have to have those that are inside.
Right.
You have to have
Because the
them
place is overcrowded already.
Yes.
Right.
We have Mr. Ahmed Adetola Kazim joining us now. Like we told you, he has a court case at 9, so he has to be on his way to the court. As Executive Director, Prisoners' Right Advocacy Initiative. Thanks for joining us on the show again.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning. Now, you have instigated a suit based on the electrocution that happened just weeks ago. Tell us more about this.
Yes, this suit is majorly from what Mr. Rutim is saying, I really hope is what they would do. But the truth is to ensure that we stem this tide of overcrowding because it's endemic. This electrocution thing is just what we are seeing. We are not talking about the diseases. We are not talking about the health needs of the inmates. We are not talking about a lot of things. It is not the first time that we have laws or we have committees set up. It has always been like that in the past 20 years. But unfortunately, the more laws we have, the more committees we have, then the more inmates we have too. In what's it called? Before the passing into law of the ACJA, Additional Criminal Justice Act, we had just about 65,000 inmates in prison, with 70% being awaiting trial. Now that number has skyrocketed to about 72,000 4 years after ACJA. The provisions of ACJA is not being implemented, and we are asking the court to order those in charge to follow suit in those provisions. Similarly, we now have the Correctional Services Act, but unfortunately, we have not started seeing the effect of this Correctional Services Act 3 months after. So I think it's beyond paying lip services to this thing. We have lost at least 5 inmates. There could be more. Because we know that a number of them were in coma. It's possible that we have them. We don't have the names of those. So this suit is just practically for that. The issue of compensation will come later. We want to write them to compensate those who are victims. And if they do not do, we go to court. But for now, it's stemming the tide of this overcrowding. And we are using a Ikoyi prison as a test case.
Mr. Kazim, let's stay with overcrowding a little bit longer because I personally don't think it's really completely fair to blame the prisons authorities for the overcrowding situation we have.
No.
I also think that...
No. From the suit, we're actually not blaming the prisons at all. We're not blaming the authorities at all. That's why we have sued the federal government. That's why we have sued the Attorney General.
What are you asking for in this suit?
What we're asking for, one of the things, we're asking for a lot of things. One of it is that there should be construction of more prisons. There should be implementation of provisions of various acts which seeks to decongest the prison. These positions are not, for instance, in the ACJA, Section 111 of the ACJA gives the Controller General of Corrections the powers to every 90 days to collect names and also details of inmates that have been in prison for longer than necessary. And this list should be sent to the Attorney General, be sent to the CJ, and they must also act on it to ensure that these people get out of prison. But this we have not seen the results. I'm not even sure if this is being done at all.
Well, let's ask Mr. Oladokun if this is being done. Every 90 days, we have a list being forwarded to say these people, the 5 people who died, unfortunately, were awaiting trial.
Well, in respect of the notice, according to the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, in the Lagos State Command, because I'm currently deployed in Lagos State Command, the nominal rolls of inmates in custody are always sent to the Office of the Honorable Attorney General of Lagos State and also the Chief Judge. And for a fact, I know this because I'm privy to some of this. Some of these things culminated in the review. When the last Chief Judge was there, she visited, and also they look at some of their old cases to try and find a middle ground of accelerating criminal justice. For those that are with us, or those that maybe they could find they could grant them bail. So it's not. I won't sit on the and say nothing's been done. A lot has been done. Are currently being done, but most of them are. The results are being felt. But you also know that I speak for Lagos, as I said, there are a series of laws. So once advocacy has been made, these laws should not always have custodial effects. They should have non-custodial, and that's why we're trying. We're at the stage because the Ministry of Justice in Lagos has a directive for community service. By virtue of the new act, the Nigerian Correctional Service Act, we're partnering with the directorate at state level to even explore and sensitize the courts, both magistrates and high court, on the need to actually sentence people to community service
Instead of sending them to the
Instead of sending
prison.
them to the prisons.
Right.
Also look at the issue of parole, suspended sentence,
Yeah.
or restorative justice. So those are there. Look at issues are homegrown. Same thing with solutions. So we have the variable platform, but we're also engaging. So as I said, and I still reiterate, we have the power to reject, and it will be exercised. But you don't just throw the baby with the bathtub. You engage with our stakeholders. That was.
But you have been engaging, like you have
that's
told
why
us. So why don't you put your foot down once and for all
That
and
is
say, we
what-
can't take
that is what
anymore?
I'm trying to say. We've engaged. That's why I told you that. I know for a fact the chief judge of the state is coming to visit. They are vetting the process. I know for a fact that the governor has constituted the prerogative of mercy committee to look into it. We know for a fact that the plea bargain protocol is being reviewed. So we are doing it at those that are even convicted and those that are waiting trial. Because, as I said, there's a process to everything. I can't come in that those that are already inside. What do? You can't just open the gates of the custodial
And tell them
center
to go.
go.
But the process
right,
seems very
right.
slow. And while we're at it, the human rights of these prisoners are being violated. Because if you put me in a room that should be for 5 people and I have 40 people there, that's my right being violated. I don't have any privacy. Shouldn't have any sort of privacy because I'm in prison.
Well, concerning human
Let me throw that to Mr. Adetola. Yes, please.
No, I think the lives of inmates is not being valued. That's just the truth. Because when you have like about 400% the capacity that it should contain.
400%.
The Ikoyi prison should ordinarily hold 800 persons. From the report we had the last time, it's holding more than 3,000 persons. This particular cell where the electrocution issue happened, it should ordinarily hold 40 persons, but it's holding about 140 persons. It's just beyond reasoning. And people start
140.
Yeah,
I'm trying to place that in my head.
We are
100.
doing this. It holds no water. I was in the Ikoyi prison on a particular day. More than 70 persons were brought on that day. And that is how we keep bringing people. The task force will bring people. The anti-cultism would bring people. I think the reforms should be holistic. Reforming the police, reforming the judiciary,
Right.
and also building more prisons beyond just the congestion. The prisons we have can't cater for Lagos effectively.
Mr. Kazim, we need to head out on a break now because we are due for that break. But when we return, we have a lot more conversation to have as to are we having enough discussions as regards prisoners' welfare? Because it looks like once we push them in there, everybody turns back. Everybody forgets about prisoners in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Are we having much robust conversation as regards their? I mean, the prisons officials will always work with what they have got. It is left for everybody, the populace, to come together and have discussions back to back on how we can, effect prison reforms. Let's go on that break right now. If you are just joining us, you're welcome. And we'll be back after this short break. I'm Sheriff Quadry.
And I'm Wemimo Adewuni. Join us again.
More talk, news, and sports after this.
your number one talk news and sports station. This is the Morning Crossfire with Wemimo and Sheriff.
I wish you could have a sneak peek into the conversations we have during the break. Oh,
like I
you
said,
guys,
I always say this: the conversation off the air is actually more heated than what you hear.
It's kind of sweeter, but don't worry, we'll bring you a version of what we were saying during the break. Hey, welcome back. This is the Morning Crossfire. We're looking at the state of correctional services, especially the rights of prisoners in Nigeria. And we have with us in the studio over the phone, we have Mr. Ahmed Adetola Kazim, who's Executive Director, Prisoners' Rights Advocacy Initiative, and they have instituted a case against the federal government, not just the federal government. The respondents are the federal government of Nigeria, the Attorney General of the Federation, the Minister of Interior, the Controller General of the Nigerian Correctional Service, the Lagos State Controller of Correctional Service, the Attorney General of Lagos State, and the Chief Judge of Lagos State. And they're making a case for the rights of prisoners, especially on overcrowding and the last incidents of electrocution. But we also have live in the studio Mr. Roti Miladokun, who's the Superintendent of Prisons, Lagos State Command. Can we start off with what we were saying during the break? So we talked about what the Correctional Service is doing in trying to work with other agencies, the judges, the police and others, how to reduce the number of prisoners coming in. If they could do community service, why pass them up to the prisons? But I was saying that imagine a situation where the Lagos State Command and commands across the country put their foot down and say we're not taking more any inmates because we have overcrowding. We're trying to deal with the issues within the walls. Don't bring any more. You're going to make headlines. We'll be talking about this. Everyone across the country will be talking about this. And I'm certain that finally they will pay attention. Why don't you want to do that?
No, it's the law and it's the prerogative of the command, and I'm sure the senior management of the command are looking into it and they'll step their foot on. As I said earlier on, because regarding Lagos State, the AG and the Honorable Chief Judge were newly appointed. We had to give them some time to look into the fact of it. Even if their predecessors were drafted certain protocol to address this issue. But the law is the law, and since the Nigerian Correctional Service is empowered to do that, I'm sure the senior management team at the command and at the national headquarters level are looking into that. But be that as it may, I also want to point out that even at the command level, apart from engaging with some of our stakeholders in the Ministry of Justice and even the judiciary, the command also partners with non-religious bodies, religious bodies, NGOs, and even individuals to actually pay for fines of some of these inmates that are convicted. So it's an approach. At least, 2 years ago, at least someone paid in a lot of high sum to actually get inmates out. But the drawback to that was that once because this had the issue with the task force, once they saw that the inmate fines were being paid, I don't know what happened. The arrest rate went up.
When the task force noticed that the fines of the people they arrested were being paid, they began arresting more people. So it's like revenue generation for them.
Well, that concern was actually, that's what I'm saying. That concern was noted and in line with the mandate by the Administration of Criminal Justice Law and Act. Every 90 days, we made that case. The then controller made that case to the AG and the Chief Judge that you can't have this issue. That was even before the advent of the Nigerian Correctional Service Act. That we're doing our best to actually manage this situation. We're not waiting for either the normal Chief Judge visit or maybe the Attorney General or intervention. But these are some of the things that are own room from the command. We appeal to NGOs, religious bodies to pay for fines for this. Apart from that, further to that, our legal unit, we review cases of inmate and lengthy, maybe cases has already spread for a very long period. We bring it to the notice of the Ministry of Justice through the Office of the Public Defender and also the Chief Judge. If the delay is from the court, why is this delay? If the delay is from the prosecution, why the delay? So to be fair, these stakeholders have been proactive. So now, as we're going to keep referring to the act, it's the law. We have that power now, and we are going to enforce it.
Mr. Kazim, the core of our discussion this morning is prisoners' welfare, congestion in
Yes.
in our prisons, and I'm wondering,
Yeah.
and this is what I'm wondering about: is it that everybody that is arrested must go to the prisons? Is that the structure of our administration of criminal justice system? That once the police or arresting agency picks up anybody for any crime or whatsoever, they must end up in prison as it stands today? Aren't there no other ways?
But unfortunately, that is not what the law provides. The ball stops on the table of the magistrate, or the police can't hold people, just can't hold them without limit. So they'll hold them. The next point is to get to the court. So the court most times would remand people, even for very minor offenses. I think that should not be. I think that should not be. But unfortunately, when people do not plead guilty, the court most times will be forced to grant bail. And if they are not able to perfect their dropping, I think there is a need to adjust that approach, where everybody has to go to the prison. If somebody who stole a pencil, somebody who stole it. And the bail process is extremely corrupt. Extremely corrupt. The court staff, the police prosecutors in court, everybody, even the correctional services officials. So it's a very corrupt ring. So for you to perfect a little bill, sometimes people will spend 10 days in prison, even for offenses that should not even get them into prisons at all. So it's another area we really need to look at. And I think a lot of police services is being paid to a lot of people. And I can say that our suit is actually to assist the correctional service, really. It's for those who should do things, should do them and do them effectively. We know that the hands of the Controller General appears tight. I read almost on a weekly basis his lamentations about the number of people in prison, the overcrowding. I know that the last controller of corrections in Lagos, Mr. Adewuni, did a lot of work. But unfortunately, the work is not showing. Because, like you said, we are not talking about these things enough. Right. People died and everybody has kept silent.
How do we intensify the discussion? How do we scale up the conversation of prisoners' rights and prisons in Nigeria?
We need the media, and I need to appreciate your efforts. I was there just 2 weeks ago,
right? And
now we are discussing this. I need to appreciate your efforts on Nigerian Info. You are doing it, and hopefully, we hope that other people can take this up, so that we put it on the front burner. It shouldn't just be about TSS arrest. It shouldn't just be about the rights of inmates. But unfortunately, because many of them are very poor, if they were the elite, then it would have been in the front burner. If some elite had died in prison for execution, then of course we'll keep saying it. But because these guys are poor, nobody's talking about them. They are forgotten. Their lives don't matter. And by God's grace, we have started. By the time we start instituting actions in every court and we start embarrassing them, I think people will start doing what they need to do.
Well, let's talk about people awaiting trial. And this number always hits me all the time. Every time I have to mention it, the number just jumps at me. The number of people awaiting trial across the country, as at October 14, 2019, and this is from data from the Nigerian Correctional Service website, the official population of convicts and awaiting trial persons in correctional service facilities across the country is 74,081. If you break this down on gender basis, you have 72,662 as males, 1,419 as females. Of these, just about 22,700 have been convicted. So the remaining 51,000 plus, that's about 69%, are awaiting trial. And 50,000 and above of these are males, while over 1,000 of these are females. So we have a high number of people awaiting trials. I know that you advocate for prisoners. Let's talk about the rights of prisoners. Assuming, for instance, that someone is taken to prison and is still awaiting trial, can't they challenge? We know people stay in prison for years still awaiting trial. Can't they, challenge this process that keeps them there for too long? What's the right of the prisoner in this regard?
Well, they can challenge it, but it depends on the circumstance of the case. Because one of the aggravating factors for issue of awaiting trial is the judiciary. you understand, the very slow dispensation of justice. Despite the innovations in our laws on issue of remand proceedings and the like, that people should not be remanded for more than 2 months. But unfortunately, the judiciary is not doing much about it. And it's this same judiciary you want to award damages, and it's most likely not going to work, except you have another arbiter that will look at these issues and ensure that people get their rights. So unfortunately, I think the judiciary is not doing enough, to be frank.
Well, you are a lawyer, so tell us what the challenges are, because you are the judiciary. What are those challenges? Why?
No, I'm sorry. We are not. When we talk about judiciary, I'm not. We are not a core part of the judiciary.
Why not? You are.
No. We do not adjudicate.
But you do go to the courts. You face these issues every day. So what are those challenges?
Well, I've spoken about it. Is the issue of and I think what most people don't understand, including those on the bench, is this presumption of innocence. Once somebody gets to the court and the person is alleged to have committed a crime, the way we view it is that people see it as, okay, this is a criminal already. Instead of seeing him as an innocent, he's being viewed as being guilty.
Right.
So it affects the way the court handles this case. For instance, last year, the immediate past PJ visited the prison, across prisons, for this jail delivery and the like. Okay. From the prison, we alone submitted over probably 200 names or more. The CJ released just 15. Just 15. The criteria was just extremely strict and not realistic.
Okay.
So that should have been an opportunity to release a lot of people. Unfortunately, we have had 200 people released in the past, 250 releases, and I know of a fact, because I reviewed many of these cases, I know that a lot of people were deserving of this release. But unfortunately, because of the way they are viewed, the CJ, the past released just 15. So there are a lot of things we need to do.
So do you agree that we need reorientation for those on the bench, for the judges to understand the situation?
We really need it.
Right.
We really need it.
There's a
But
comment on WhatsApp.
Balance.
Yes.
There must also be a balance. We must build more prisons, because there are a lot of people who should be in prison that are roaming on the street. But we shouldn't have overcrowded prisons. We should have, if there's the capacity is on there, let it be 750.
Well, if you ask me personally, overall, I would like to see a situation where we have less prisons and less prisoners. Because if the society works functionally, you shouldn't have many people going to jail in the first place. But that's a conversation for another day.
But unfortunately, the society is not working well.
No, it's not working well.
Yes, progressively. We'll start closing up prisons, just like we have in some Scandinavian countries, some European countries, now closing their prisons. But where we need facilities that will accommodate those who have come in conflict with the law.
Yeah.
Right.
And we need proper rehabilitation for them. We can't keep deceiving ourselves that we have enough prisons.
Mr. Alodukun, how is it that female inmates are getting pregnant inside the prison?
I think that notion is totally false. No female inmate is impregnated while in custody of the Nigerian Correctional Service. Usually what happens is, upon remand, a test is taken. So you have issues where some of them are not even aware that they're pregnant. So I give you an instance. Maybe in January, a female inmate was remanded. She does the test. Obviously, the physical signs are not showing. But obviously, maybe she's 2 weeks pregnant or 3 weeks pregnant. And the case stretches for at least 12 months. So when you have the issue that maybe by May, June, you see the physical, then you wonder, she has been in custody, where did it happen? No female inmate, even in our female facilities, they are strict, all female personnel deployed there.
And it's quite impossible that the female warders get them pregnant.
It's quite impossible. And we don't have conjugal visit in our laws. So,
but if they were even 2 weeks pregnant while they were brought in, while the case was still ongoing, should they be in the same prison as others?
Well, that's for, as I told you, we were the receiving end. Be that as it may, they are adequate, they are health facilities that cater to them. Okay. In the female custodial center, there's a primary health care center attached to the female care. So we try as much as possible to prioritize health issues. That's why in my opening statement, though quite unfortunate, but I also praise the timely intervention of our health personnel. Maybe I also appeal. I agree with Adetola when he says maybe more prisons and more or expand capacities in urban centers. It's something that can look into it, and I think in partnership with either the state government or public spirited organization, it could do certain things, intervention project. Either you expand, you donate a cell block, or you donate, because I'm moved by the former nursing school in Awolowo Road, Falomo. I know that it was a lady that willed that particular parcel of land to
if we have individuals. But I'm staying with these women in prison.
Okay.
So when they do have their babies, for those who are still in prison, what happens to the babies? Are the babies also prisoners?
No. What happens is that even on their birth certificate doesn't state that they were born in a custodial center. One. Two, on humanitarian ground, the baby is weaned right after 18 months. Because of you have to make sure ensure that bond between mother and child is there.
Right.
So after 18 months, the family and foster care providers come and keep the child, take custody of the child out. So the child is there's a rapport. Since the child is with the family member, they visit, they meet up, support. But that first 18 months is critical in the development of that child. So that's why we try to keep. And there's in the female custodial center, there's a nursery, there's a crèche.
Okay.
We try as much as possible to ensure that at least semblance of normalcy is there.
Right.
Further to what we're discussing, yes, as I said, congestion is a key thing. But be that as it may, this inmate too also do wonders. Presently, they're writing their National Open University exams, and we have a lot of, currently there are over 500 inmates across the National Open University system. They are doing various degrees.
Wow.
Some at first degree, some at masters, some are even scheming for PhD. There were two that went as far as PhD, and because of that, their respective governors gave them clemency.
Wow.
So we just finished, and they just did 2 months ago. They did O levels, WAEC and NECO, and we have the large number. Last year in Ikoyi Custodial Center, 65 registered, and we have a pass rate of close to 80%.
Did they have people teaching them
They
while
do.
they were
We
in
have,
prison?
both officers and some of them the older inmates, and we have volunteers from outside.
Wait, let's head to the phones quickly. I know the people have been trying to reach us, and we have lots of comments on our socials. We'll try to read as many as we can. If you want to join this conversation, remember to please take 30 seconds. I was going to say 30 minutes. 30 seconds, please, on each call, and here are the numbers.
Call us on 01-277-0993, 01-277-1993, 01-277-2993, and 01-277-3993. This is Nigeria Info. We are listening.
This is Nigeria Info. We are listening. The first number, 01277-0993, is for female callers and for those calling us from outside of Nigeria, those in diaspora only. Every other number you can call.
Hello, good morning to you.
Oh dear.
Do try and call us back if you can. Good morning to you.
Hello, good morning.
Yes,
Good morning.
Okay, I'm listening in on the conversation. First off, I think that...
you want to tell us your name, please?
Sorry. My name is Chichi. I'm calling from Lagos.
Welcome.
Good to have you.
Okay, I think that the person on set with you is trying to avoid some questions, right? See, we see these things every day. We know that these things happen inside prisons, right? Where someone is convicted, they were okay. I mean, if you say that they were tested before they get into prison, so how does pregnancy eventually happen? And there was a question about, are they in the same cell with every other person? And you were talking about there are health centers inside there. That's not the question. The question is, are they left in the same cell with every other person? And if we check very well, the answer is yes. Because these are the issues. We convict people. They are meant to serve a jail term, or even those awaiting trials, right? They are literally convicted because we don't have a working justice system. So if we have a lawyer on set, answer these questions, because truth is people are listening. If we don't address these issues, we're going to keep doing I jump and pass, and it won't really help us.
Okay, let us not jump this and pass. Let me pass it straight to the person who should reply you right now. Thank you for calling, Chichi.
As I said earlier on, they do not get pregnant while in custody. I was giving you an example, a hypothetical case. If a particular female inmate or defendant is still an awaiting trial, and she comes in and she's 2 weeks gone, obviously the physical signs are not visible. But as the case goes on, you'd start to see it. Now,
so they don't run tests when they bring them to the prison.
They do. That's why I said that upon admission, upon receiving a female inmate in custody from court, they run tests. So
we know that they are pregnant.
They are pregnant coming in, but you've not seen the physical
because it might be too early.
It's too early.
But if we know by the test that they are pregnant, we don't need to see it physically because they are pregnant.
Yes, they are pregnant.
Do we set them? Do they have special places?
Yes, the custodial center try to keep them, because of their delicate state, in dedicated cell. Let me use that word. Cells. And those are the same people. You don't have them mixed with other because of their peculiar health needs.
Okay, I think that answers it.
Oladipo, good morning to you.
Good morning, Sharon.
Good morning.
Good morning, Wemimo.
Good morning.
Good morning, our guest in the studio.
Good morning.
I'm Pastor Ladipo from Orilegom. My take this morning, I think the only challenge there is our lack of value for ourselves. If the justice system is working, I don't think that those cells should be overcrowded. So let the orientation agency do more campaigns. Sir, if you go to police station today, go and see the way they keep people in their own cells. I'm not talking about the prisons.
Right.
I'm talking about cells.
Right.
Go and see how they treat humanity. You will shed tears. So no more value for human life. That will happen.
Oladipo, thank you so much. Joy Forever on Twitter says, our correctional system is overcrowded. Majority of them are within trials. Many don't even have case file, and food very appalling. I have visited a couple on evangelism. Prisoners have rights, but
not
in Nigeria, not reason. I actually don't get that part. Charles is calling us. Charles, good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you today?
Very well. Please take 30 seconds. Go ahead quickly.
Yes, I just want to quickly talk about the issue of this the justice system that has to do with arrest of people, especially in Lagos.
Okay.
Where a person maybe just due to flimsy offenses, like during environmental, somebody will just be arrested and be taken to the correction center just like that, and the people, the family, they were looking for him, looking for her for weeks. Because sometimes people go to hospital, go to police station, be looking for their loved one, not knowing that they are in the correction center. How will the justice system look into issues that borders on just
minor offenses? I think we mentioned that earlier on.
Let me take some comment from WhatsApp. We have loads of them. We have this from Charles from Egbeda, who says the prison official is economical with the truth. I wish you'd tell me exactly what, so that I can ask him because he's here. We also have a comment in here. Says judicial system is slow all over the world. Nigeria needs to build more prisons. Someone shares an experience on WhatsApp. It says, Honorable Wemimo, really? When did I become? Says, please, we have okay. It says, I have an experience to share about the Ikoyi prison that involved myself and my younger brother years back on what we knew nothing about. If not for God, we would have been thrown into that prison, but we escaped. Said he's been trying to call. That's from Ebenezer.
Comrade Taiwo, good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yeah, Comrade Taiwo, calling from Badore.
Welcome.
So firstly, I commend Mr. Kosim and his organization. They are doing wonderful well the area of welfare tourism of those at this center. But my own concern much now that I would like our guest speaker to talk about is the area of health management.
Okay.
I and some other people was in a visit to Ikoyi prison. But what we witnessed concerning the health matter is very alarming. Seriously, some people have so much this skin disease all over their body. Some have even get mentally problem.
But Mr. Ladoku tells us here that the medical condition is okay. Okay, quickly respond to this. Let me get a response from him.
Let's have him. Let's have him. Let's have him respond to it.
Very quickly.
Well, as your caller said, that this situation was describing was 3 years ago. Presently, we have 5 custodial centers in Lagos. We have a referral hospital in a maximum custodial center. Be that as it may, each of these other centers have clinics, health facility.
And they are functional.
I
promise we're out of time, but I promised a visit. I wish we could continue. I promised a visit. I think that visit is going to happen right now or very soon, very soon. But we must go now. I'm sorry. I wish we could continue. And the phone calls are coming in. Right. The messages are pouring in. But we hope we're able to answer some of your questions. So thank you, Mr. Ladoku, for coming in to talk to us on the show today.
Thank you.
Is the Superintendent Lagos State Command of the Superintendent of Prisons, Lagos State Command, or Correctional Services now. And also we thank our guest who joined us via the phone, Mr. Kazim Akitola, for joining us. He's Executive Director, Prisoners' Rights Advocacy Initiative. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Ahmed Adetola Kazim.
Ahmed Adetola Kazim. Now, we would have this conversation again soon because it's inexhaustive in 1 hour. We hope we're able to get Mr. Adetola's time again.
No problem.
All right. Thank you. We'll be back again tomorrow with more conversations on the Morning Crossfire. I'm Wemimo Adewuni.
And I'm Sheriff Quadry.